hear me? Hey guys, how's it going? It's Convolva here and welcome to the third live stream on the channel. I hope you guys are able to hear me because this is the second time I'm doing this today, and if you've read the description then you know already what has happened. I tried to do the live stream today in the morning and it turned out that it was unlisted, so no one got to see it, just some people on Facebook, Instagram, and some people from Discord got to saw it. So yeah, I'm doing the live stream again on the channel. So yeah, let's get right to it then. Hang on, let me just check the audio here. By the way, you guys are able to hear me, right? The audio is buffering. Alright. Okay. Hang on, let me. Alright, so I think my audio must be going through at this time. But yeah. So here I've got this project which I was talking about in the first session, and I just went over a few sections like the intro, break, ambience and stuff like that, you know, because this is a topic that got requested many times, you know, on the server and also on my mails. People ask me how I go intros. So I thought, why not just take this opportunity right now, because just last week I released a new template, which is this one. This is one of my projects called as Aaja Sajna. And I thought, why not just because now you guys will also have access to the same project file. And if not got this project file, the link to it is in the description. Go and download it if you like the project, and you can be on the same page as I am. So yeah, anyway, without further ado, I'm going to start playing the track, and then I'm going to talk about how I went about the sound design in the track. So here we go. All right, that was a playthrough of the entire track. And this is a project file which I have released just like 2-3 days ago on the channel. So if you don't have it, you can get it for free, and the link is also in the description. Hey man, how's it going? Ozone's here. Yeah, it's kind of like a crossover between hardstyle and Psytrance. And this is a project that I've been working for over like 3 years, apparently, according to this project file. Started in 2017, and it got finished like last year. Well, in the end of last year. So it almost took like 3 years to get this done. And I thought it's a good opportunity to share this as a template rather than just keep it to myself and release it as a track. So yeah, there you have it. The project file is in the description. You can get it from there. Okay, so the thing that happened today was I had a live stream. I did do the entire stream of this thing that I'm doing currently at the moment, and the stream was unlisted, so not a lot of people got to see it. So I'm going to do the entire stream again. I have noted down some points here, and we're gonna go over those. And if you have any questions, then you can let me know in the chat, and I will get back to you. All right. So wait, you guys are not able to hear me properly? Because it says to me that I'm going to, you guys are able to hear it. Okay. Anyway, so let's get right to it. So the first thing that I was going to talk about today was the intro that I did in this track. And in intro, how I usually go about intros in projects like these is by writing the drop first, the first drop, and then the second drop, and then if I have a third drop, I would write that, and then the break, and then after I'm done with all these sections, that's when I would approach the intro section. And that's because while writing music, I tend to not deviate, because if I know how the drop is going to sound like and how the other elements in the track are going to sound like, I have few sound design elements here and there which I can bring back and use them in the intro. So that's why I write that. Hang on, are you guys still getting playback issues? Because someone said it in the chat. Yes, I am from Pune. Yes. All right, great. So as I was saying, after I've written the drop sections, like the electronic parts like this one, Journey into sound, I would gather around sound design elements, from the drops itself, and then add more effects such as reverb, delay, distortion, stuff like that, and then create new elements over here. So in this project file, this particular one, if you see, there are two arrangements which I have created. One is the alternate intro, which is like a different version of the intro, which I wrote before creating the final arrangement. So if you go into this alternate intro, you would see a completely different arrangement, and this is just the a different version of the intro which I was writing when I wrote the intro of this track. So let me just play this section as well, and then we're gonna look into it. what I had when I was writing the track, I wrote the drops and then I started working on this section here. And you might have noticed that the main vocal that was there in the actual track is actually missing over here. And that is because of how I progressed while writing the intro. I wrote the drops and the pre-drops of the track first, and then later on in the track I kept adding things. So that's when in the end I added this vocal, which is actually this one. If I show you. My voice is a little low. Okay, hang on, let me just bring the microphone a little close. And hang on, let me bring you guys to this screen so you can see the settings. Let me know if it makes a difference. So go to advanced audio settings and make this into, let's say 10 or 11. Can we do that? 11 dBs, and bring down the audio of this by 2 dBs. Okay, did my voice become louder for you guys? By little? Alright, so let me just get you back to the screen, which is the application window. Okay. I really like this vocal. Yeah. But yeah, before we get into all that, I'd like to talk about timing, because this track is supposed to be between progressive, psytrance and hardstyle. And if you produce hardstyle and tracks are usually at very different lengths. Progressive psytrance usually are like 5 to 6 minutes long, and hardstyle tracks usually last like something like that. And then you have the full-on psytrance, which I also produce, which is like 8 minutes long. So before making sure, I had made the arrangement for the drop 1, hardstyle drop, and this outro. So it was almost around 4 minutes long when I created these 3 sections. You can see this section starts over here and 1 second goes up till 7. So 7 minus 2, that is 5. So I had 1 minute of time left, to create the intro. In genres like these, you don't want to like make it way too long, but also keep a nice build. So I kept a intro of around 44 sections, I believe. If I come back to this one, you can see. Okay, it was around 54 seconds, I think. So to do the intro, I had first finalized that I would be making a 6 minutes track, and then I took the time that hang on, I think can you guys hear me again, or is it buffering? Hang on, just a second. Yeah, all right, anyway, because there's not much I can delay it a little maybe for you guys. Maybe that would work. So yeah, anyway, as far as writing this intro section is concerned, what I did was I had already written this part. So there was this vocal in the before the third drop, which I really liked.
Aaja Sajna, Aaja Sajna.
So this is a vocal I got from Splice. There are a lot of quality good vocals over there in Splice which you can get, and I think it's one of the packs which I got from there, and I liked it. It had a very ethnic Indian kind of a sound to it, and it worked really well with this track because it's not only is it just a hardstyle track, it's also psychedelic, and this was creating a nice ethnic feel to it. So I chose that, but in the intro I wanted to do something a little different, because if I just gave away the vocal which I put in the end of the track in the beginning, then there won't be any surprise in the end, if you know what I mean, because there has to be some difference between the vocal that is happening in the beginning and in the end, so that there's some contrast, so it always feels like you're getting. So I wanted to add some extra layers to that, and I did a different kind of to this. I used a saw based carrier sound to create this kind of a sound. Alright, so to create, I did a little bit of a vocoding to this, and vocoding is basically, I think there's some network issue here, getting notifications. Anyway, yeah, and I panned that to this left side to create some stereo effect, and layered it with this. This is just a layer which pans from left to right to create some kind of a interesting effect. But other than that, we have this, and then there is this pre-verb kind of a thing. So if you hear this, to get that, what I usually do is I select a small part of the track like this. I go into the master and I put a reverb here, okay, in the master before the mastering chain, obviously, and then I would put a Edison right after that and make it record on now, on my command. So if I press record, it'll start recording. Okay, so I do that and I play and I pause. Wait, I think the mastering chain is disabled. Make sure your plugins are enabled before you use them. Oh, delete. So now it's recording and I just hit it. And now you get this nice tail, reverb tail. You can just pause it and don't forget to remove the reverb because we don't need it anymore. And I'm just going to reverse this. So reverse, okay. And we get this effect. I don't use this part really. What I would do is I would just delete that and we have this now, but not cutting it off abruptly like that, because then we would get a click sound, which is not desirable for intros, because we need it to be smooth and flowing nicely towards the drop. So I would do this. It's a fade out and that would make it smooth like this. So it doesn't stop abruptly, it stops smoothly. And what I've realized is we tend to not notice it because it doesn't feel like the volume is going down smoothly, but it sounds smooth, for the lack of better words. So I did that with the other vocal which I had, was this one, and then this, and then we have this. But before that I also did a vocal chop like this. Aaja Sajna, also, as far as this vocoding thing is concerned, the inspiration of that is obviously this vocal over here. So it's like a Mongolian chant kind of a thing, and I think it has a similar vibe as the vocal has over here. You know, the texture that I got because of vocoding. So just choosing similar elements to get this kind of a sound, you know, for the vocal. And then obviously I chose the ethnic female vocal. Now this is because the track already had a female vocal in the end, in the third drop before that. So I thought, why not just have some female vocal as well, because it's not just a you know, sound effect that I'm using, and this also creates a nice ethnic vibe, so it works. And then I had one more sample from the same sample pack, used it with this. Okay, here I use some LFO to do the vocal, the volume automation here. So I can show you the thing that's happening here. The way you do it is you just automate the volume and you get this automation box, right? And in that automation box, you have to just engage the LFO option and automate the speed and amount, and you would get this kind of a sound. It's pretty cool, especially for intros. I think it works really well. So that's what I did with that. Now, as far as the hints part is concerned, I do have some sounds. For example, I have this hardstyle sound. I think it's a hardstyle kick, which was there in the second drop. I put it here and I reversed it. You see? So this sort of gives an idea that it's a hardstyle, but by not, you know, going overboard with it and keeping a hardstyle kick, it's like very subtle. If you hear it with the rest of the effects, you will barely notice it. See, you barely notice it, but it's there and it adds to the overall vibe, you know, like giving hints about what the genre of the track is. Now in the track, I do have some organic instruments like the cajon sounds and the organic hit. And is the stream clear for you guys? Because hang on, let me just check it once, because apparently the stream is getting stuck. Someone's telling me that. Yeah, I hope it better, because I just cleared it up a little. But yeah, anyway, I've got these cajon sounds. Now, if you have downloaded any other projects that I have made available on the channel as well, then you might have noticed that I use organic instruments a lot in my tracks in the intro. And that's partly because of the fact that organic instruments give a very, you know, a subtle human touch to the track that synths and, you know, beats, if they are synced exactly right to the time grid, would never be able to do. So in this case, I use this sample. I think I bought a sample pack from Loop Masters once, and they had a really good cajon sound like this one. And if you even look at the beat grid over here, you would see that it is not really time synchronized. Even look, if you look this one, this hit happens right before the time grid. You know, the beat grid is here, but the hit is here, and that sort of adds that human touch to the entire track, you know, in the intro. So what I would do is I would have a lot of organic instruments in the intro, and then through the riser I would sort of start adding more and more electronic elements, so that it goes from a more organic feel to a fully electronically synthesized sound, you know, that, which is what our drop is usually. Because if we have two similar sounds placed right next to each other, our brains do not pick up them as two separate things. They would be, if they are too similar, and a way to counteract that is to make them appear different, you know, like really different. So in this case I used organic instruments in the riser, and in the drop I have these completely completely synthesized sound. So that creates a contrast, you know, and I think it's an impact in the track. So that's something I do in my tracks. And then if you see here, as we move forward, there are some duduk sounds. Hey man, see. Yeah, so this duduk sound is basically from Kashmir sample pack, and give emphasis on the cajon, because it worked well with that. Let me play just that with this. And then I have some tabla sounds, which are like accent sounds really, like this one. You see this one? I added the tabla sounds in the end. Actually, this was not part of the main arrangement, but since I added a vocal which was very Indian and very ethnic, I thought the tabla sound would, you know, work well in a track like this. So that's why we have that. And just some guitar. I think it's not a guitar, it's a bouzouki. I don't even know how to pronounce that. Alright. And then there are some hits here. Oh yeah, I used a tom sound which was tuned to G sharp, G actually, and then I tuned it up so that it's in G sharp, because if you look in the project info, this track's key is in G sharp, and that's the key of the bass and the hardstyle kick and everything. So I tuned this one to the same, and then if you see that over here, when I play it, it accentuates the tabla sounds. So this is what it sounds like. Without. So yeah, and I engage the smooth mode so that it's not way too long like this, and I cut it right here at this grid. Now this is again a duduk sound, but I think I pitched it up. If you see here, I pitched it up by 11 octaves. No, not octaves. Damn, that would be very crazy. By 11 semitones. So yeah. Hey man, Buzz, how's it going? Okay. So once we are past that stage, then we have this part where I have added a lot of, I started adding a lot of electronic sounds. So, for example, this snare. And this is a very electronic sound. Nothing about this says that it is organic. I mean, sure, you could call it, but it's mostly, you know, very crunchy, and this is the kind of sound you get after a lot of sound design. So a brain picks it up, and I put it into the piano roll and made a very a sequence which is very on grid, you know, it's not off like this. And then in the sampler you can see, okay, I have not used that, but yeah, when I play the track with just the orchestral instruments, the drums and everything, you would see how it creates a contrast. So this is like a phase where we are transitioning from purely orchestral sounds to more synthesized sounds, like the drop where you have the kick and bass. So we need to create that transition. So it can't be just electronic sounds just going up. We need a good balance of it such that it feels balanced. But yeah, then I added these bass sounds, called it dong bass for some reason. Guess it's probably because of the sound it's making, which is actually a layer of two sounds which are both hammer, which I created inside Patcher, if you see. Now Patcher does look a little intimidating, but it's really simple. It's like your mixer slots. If you see, this is how the plugins are, you know, one after the other. But yeah, the only difference is two synths are going into one thing instead of one synth going into one. So here I have two layers. I'll mute the other one. This is more like the mid bass sound, you know, which I have to have high frequency sounds. So if someone's playing it on a mobile phone or something like that, they would be able to hear these. And then this is the bass layer, which sounds like this, which is just a saw wave which has been plugged, and then together they sound like this. Which I have over here. Okay, and I think I consolidated one of these patterns into a WAV file so that I could pitch it up, you know. So I made the mode go into stretch so that it does not change size like this, you know, when we are playing the track and pitching it up, because sometimes it happens when you are in the resample mode. So I made it into stretch, and then I automated the pitch knob. Then of course we have this snare riser thing, which I think is very common in Psytrance sounds, at least Psytrance tracks, because this is not, I've not seen it in other genres much, you know. So this is something for which I use direct wave. It's a sampler, but you can use any other sampler, like which has an option to automate the end points, you know, the loop end and start points. So in this you can see that it is looping, but as I go up in the piano roll, is doing that much faster. So this is what creates that, and to do that I use the slide note feature, this one, and made it slide up to D7, D sharp 7, and then I went to E8. Now this is just experimental, there's no reason for choosing these. You can see how it became faster. Alright, so yeah, that's that. I think I have also done the same thing with the kicks here. And yeah, I've added some effects again, like this hardstyle kick sample which I got from Splice. this is just to give an idea that it's also a hardstyle track at the same time. So it's right here. If I play this section. So I have created a sample out of this section here. By the way, if you if this is new to you, I have created a tutorial on this specific sound. It's called looping arpeggio sound. No, it's called the direct wave sound or something. And it's in the riser playlist. You can have a look. It's a very simple sound. And all I'm doing is pitching up the loop, which I think is used a lot in Psytrance tracks. It's cool. And then I think I did a little bit of automation to the EQ here. So what I did was, as the kick rises up, it becomes a little out of control and chaotic because a lot of frequencies are involved, because the kick is a full spectrum sound, and if you're going to pitch it up, then that's going to create a lot of chaos in the frequency spectrum. So to control it a little, I put an EQ on that and then automated the high pass cutoff and the low pass cutoff. So it looks something like this. Alright, so that's that, and I think that's about the riser. Let's have a look into the ambient section now, because that's one more thing that a lot of people have asked me. But before we go there, I would like to show you what I've done with the SFX here, because SFX is really something which is up to personal preference, in my opinion. And the sound design here and the rhythms that you create here are totally up to you. And in this case, I have used hammer to create this kind of sound. So if you see here, it's also a patcher instrument, and this is for, I think, volume automation. This is a delay, this is a reverb, this is for transient processing, so that I can increase the amount of transients in the track, and then a little bit of a EQ, just to high pass it. But yeah, this is how it looks inside hammer. It's a very simple sound. I used a saw based synth, no, not synth, saw based oscillator, and then band passed it, before passing it to the delay and reverb. So it sounds like this. Wait, hang on, let me go back here, and yeah. Now this is a sound which I have actually covered in the past as well. I think it was the SFX tutorial 1, or could be 2 as well. 1 and 2. Just check that out if you're interested in a sound like this. And yeah, that's what I've used. Some hardstyle sounds. I added a fill element here because this is where the vocals start. Right. So that's about the SFX. Now let's get to the ambient sounds. So in the ambient sounds here, I have a couple of sounds which are like more related to the atmosphere I wanted to create with this, and it was the ethnic vibe because of the vocal. The vocal was very ethnic, and I wanted sounds to support that idea. So this is what the ambient sounds sound like, just by themselves. lot of Foley sounds. And if you notice here, I have done some granulizer work. Now this is based off the vocal which we already had in the track, and what I did was I took the original vocal, pitched it down, and then passed it through Fruity Granulizer. It's a plugin that we have in FL Studio. I'm pretty sure in one of these you would be able to find the granular work which I did. I think it's this one. No, it's not. So what happens is, in a Fruity Granulizer, you have your sample and it's divided into a lot of small samples, small sections, and then based on the settings you have in the plugin itself, your sample is, your pieces inside Granulizer are distanced and they're separated accordingly. I have a completely detailed tutorial on this. It's the trippy vocals one, which you can check out if you want a similar effect. But yeah, with that I created this sound. You see how the pieces are getting separated, you see? And that's something which you can achieve with the Fruity Granulizer. Yeah. And this is just to give a ambient sound. So yeah, that's that. And we have these Ambience drone sounds. It's also from Kashmir Pack. I like that sample. The fire sounds, because hardstyle, so it better be lit. And some guitar sounds, because we are creating harsher sounds in this track. I think guitar does a good job to show warmth in a track. So this is like a sound which sounded like bonfire. So I felt like these three worked well together. But on their own, these ambient sounds do not sound really good, So to give it a little bit more emphasis, what I did was I added a pad sound. And the pad sound is just a super saw which I created in Hammer. So all you have to do is just sounds like this, by the way. I didn't use all of these. I just took this first section and looped it again and again until the riser, and this I feel gives the track a little bit more body. The ambient sounds on their own sound a little empty in the mid frequency range, so I had to add something which could give it a little more backing, and that's what this was. Okay, this is all great, but the most important thing which I believe in this entire thing is the bass, because that's what gives it the stability, the sub bass. So in this I used Hammer again. I should probably stop saying I used this plugin because I'm always using Hammer. So yeah, I used Hammer to create this kind of a bass. Now if you see, it's not like a regular sub bass which just has a sine wave, but it's like a saw wave which was low passed, and added some unison to create a movement in it. So if you see in the waveform here, you'd see that the waveform is going from phase and then off phase. So it's creating constructive and destructive interference in the waveform, which creates a nice movement in the track, because without it, it would be very stable and boring, So I added this, so it moves about, and then when you pair that with this, the ambient sounds, it sounds complete. See? Now I did put another layer to it, And this sound is from Silent One. It's like a super saw, you know, but I just wanted to have a layer to it, so I added the sound. And it's just a saw wave which has been detuned, and I think that's about it. And together they sound like this. But before we go there, I do have some mid-bass saw effects here as well. And this is just to be like an answer phase to the cajon sounds which we had. And it sounds like this. It's again a hammer sound. This is a similar kind of idea. I added some unison to it and then used randomness, phase randomness knob here, because without it, it sounds a little bland. With phase randomness, the individual phase of each of these sine harmonics, they spread a little, you know, and then that creates phase cancellation very, you know, in every frequency, and that creates a more interesting sound in my opinion. You see? And then I think I distorted it with the log type distortion, but you can really experiment with distortion. You can use any distortion unit that you like. And yeah, if you see the cajon sounds, if I play that with that, you would notice how it's like an answer phase to this section. So yeah. Now we do have some interesting ambient sounds here and there. Like I have added some tiger sounds. I have reversed it so that it doesn't sound like a tiger sound, you know, just to create some interest. And now we come to the last thing in this entire thing, and that is the risers and the transition. And I would say this is actually one of the most important things in the track, because this is what controls the energies in a track, when they go up and when they come down. So if you see here, I have placed so many layers here just to get this impact right. Now I could go on explaining of why I chose these samples, but I think this is really up to personal preference, and you guys, you know, I think you can go literally with town with this, and yeah, that's what this is for. Yeah. So when you put them all together, they all sound like this. yeah, that's what that all comes together to sound like. Now, as far as the mixing of this is concerned, I have, well, for the much mixing done in here, it's just that I made sure that nothing collides with the sub bass, you know. So if I play the section here and just show you the oscilloscope here, there are not a lot of things which are in the low frequency. Yeah, apart from the cajon, obviously, and the orchestral hits. So that's what I tried to do in the track, so that a lot of if a lot of things crash with the bass itself, then the bass would lose its integrity, you know. So I didn't want to do that, and for that, if you look into the mixer, I think somewhere I might have a high pass layer or something like that. Yeah, so I have like 3 high pass slots here, where I have high pass them at different levels. So this is HP1, you know, the mixer slot. In this, I have chosen 193 hertz, and I have only passed sounds where I just don't want them to clash with the sub bass. And I usually do this in the end when I'm done with the entire track, and then I have to do the mixing. So I try to put these SFX sounds, for example, through the mixer slot if they have high frequency. For example, let's see if I have used any sound where I did that. So this is a high frequency sound. Okay. No, not this one. Okay, let's select this sound, for example. Now this sound does have a lot of bass in here, and it was there for a reason, because it's a pre-drop. But if I didn't want it, I would just pass it through number 1, and you can now see that it has lost a lot of that, you know, sub bass area. The 50 hertz, no, 193 hertz and below. And in HP2, I have just moved it further. It's 255 hertz, and in HP3, it is around 708 hertz. So that I can, you know, see how it sounds like just by moving this number. See? So that's really helpful when I'm doing the mixing in the end, you know, and I want results quickly. And obviously I can do the mixing with the volume knob here. I don't have to do it with these knobs, because they do the same thing more or less. So yeah. I do have some plugs here. It's the same chord. I have not added a lot of chords here. It's just G sharp minor. So G sharp minor is like G sharp, B, and then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's supposed to be D sharp. What? Okay, this is a E chord. No, it is a D sharp. Seems like a sustained chord. Is it? Nope. For some reason I have. Okay, I see. This is a G sharp chord, but it's a variation of the G sharp chord, because I have used E as an accent here, and I reduced the velocity, if you can see here, and that creates this kind of sound. You know, like a interference which adds to the vibe of the track, you know. And again, there's no chord progression here, because usually I want the track to progress in the end, or in the break section rather than over here. So the less things that I have in the intro, the more the listener can guess of what the track is going to sound like. And that's really, I think, the purpose of having a intro like this, is to create intrigue in a track. So yeah, I think that about sums it up. And I think some mid bass elements are also here. Okay, it's like a plug sound. Yeah, which follows the chord progression, but then I have removed the chord progression by, you know, making smaller. So yeah, same thing, you know. And yeah, I think that about sums it all up of what I have done in this project. Now this project is there in the on the channel. If you are interested, you can just download this for free and start experimenting. You can even remix this track if you're interested, whatever. And yeah, I think that about sums up the entire session. If you have any questions regarding this or otherwise, then you guys can let me know. My contact details are always in the description. You can text me on Instagram. So yeah, that's that, and I think I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, see you later, guys. Take care.